Imagine you're at a sports event, not just any event. You're watching the Olympics or the world's strongest man or maybe even the Super Bowl. And out onto the field walks an athlete unlike any other. He's not tall and lean, or he's short, maybe 5.5 feet tall, but incredibly wide. His shoulders are massive, his chest is a barrel, and his legs are thick like tree trunks. His brow is heavy, his nose is huge, and he looks at the world with a calm, focused intensity. This is a Neanderthal. The crowd might laugh at first. He doesn't look like our modern ideal of an athlete. But the laughter would stop the second the competition began, because this individual, a product of hundreds of thousands of years of evolution in the brutal cold of Ice Age Europe, is a physical specimen of a kind we can barely comprehend. He is a power athlete perfected by nature, so what sports would he dominate? The question isn't just a fun thought experiment, it gets to the heart of what the Neanderthal body was built for. It was a machine designed for survival, for generating immense force in short, violent bursts. Their entire anatomy tells a story of power, stability, and resilience. Let's start with the chassis. A Neanderthal skeleton is a lesson in robustness. Their bones were thicker and denser than ours. This means they are far more resistant to fractures. A bone-jarring tackle that would snap a modern human's collarbone might just bruise a Neanderthal. Their joints were large and solid, built to handle massive torque and pressure. They were from the ground up, built to last through incredible physical stress. Then you add the engine. Their torso was conical, flaring out from the shoulders down to a wide pelvis. That barrel chest wasn't for show, it housed enormous lungs. Scientists believe their lung capacity was significantly greater than that of modern humans. This wasn't for running marathons, it was for fueling explosive anaerobic movements. Just think of it as the difference between a fuel-efficient sedan and a dragster. The Neanderthal was a dragster. Their giant nasal cavity helped warm the frigid Ice Age air before it hit those precious lungs, but it also allowed for huge gulps of air to fuel the furnace. Their limbs were the pistons driving this machine. They were short, especially the lower parts of their arms and legs. This is a classic adaptation to a cold climate, reducing surface area to conserve heat. But it also had a huge biomechanical advantage. Short limbs mean incredible leverage. They were built for pulling and pushing, not for reaching. Their center of gravity was low, making them incredibly stable and hard to knock over. Their hands were large, with wide fingertips and a grip strength that would likely have been crushing. Studies on their muscle attachment points suggest their biceps, pectorals, and back muscles were far more developed than even our strongest athletes today. So, with this picture of a short, immensely powerful, stable, and resilient human, we can start placing him in the world of modern sports. The most obvious arena for Neanderthal dominance would be the world of grappling and combat. Think wrestling, think judo. A Neanderthal on a wrestling mat would be a terrifying sight. His low center of gravity would make him almost impossible to take down. Trying to shoot for his legs would be like trying to tackle a fire hydrant. His incredible core and back strength would mean he could resist turns and throws with ease. And then he'd go on the offensive. His grip would be like a vise. Once he grabbed a wrist or an ankle, that hold would not be broken. His short, powerful arms would be perfect for moves like the gut wrench, where you lock your hands around an opponent's waist and lift and throw them. A modern heavyweight wrestler relies on a combination of technique, strength, and conditioning. The Neanderthal would bring a level of raw, brute strength that would negate almost any technique. He could simply power through his opponent's defenses. Imagine a Greco-Roman wrestling match which forbids holds below the waist. This is pure upper body strength. It would be the Neanderthal's kingdom. He could clinch with an opponent and simply walk him wherever he wanted to go on the mat. The same goes for judo. The sport is about using an opponent's weight and momentum against them. But what happens when you face an opponent who is essentially an immovable object? A Neanderthal's stability would make him incredibly difficult to sweep or throw. And his own throws, powered by that immense upper body and core, would be devastating. The impact on the mat would be like a sack of cement being dropped from a roof. Mixed martial arts presents a more complex picture. A Neanderthal would be a nightmare in the clinch and on the ground. But he might struggle with the striking aspect. His short reach would be a significant disadvantage against a taller, longer-limbed Homo sapiens fighter who could use kicks and jabs to keep him at a distance. But if the Neanderthal could close that distance, if he could get his hands on his opponent and drag the fight to the ground, it would be over. His ground and pound would be less about precision and more about overwhelming, bludgeoning force. His dense bones would also give him a chin made of granite. He could likely absorb punishment that would knock out any modern human. Beyond the combat arena, let's look at pure strength sports. This is where the Neanderthal would not just compete, he would rewrite the record books. Take powerlifting, the three main lifts are the squat, the bench press, and the deadlift. The Neanderthal physique is practically bioengineered for these movements. For the squat, his short femurs and solid torso would be a huge advantage. They would allow him to hit depth easily while maintaining an upright posture, reducing stress on his lower back. His powerful quads, glutes, and core would drive him up with explosive force. He wouldn't be lifting 1,000 pounds, he'd be asking where the next set of plates was. The bench press is a test of pectoral, shoulder, and triceps strength. His wide, thick chest and robust shoulders combined with shorter arms mean the bar wouldn't have to travel as far as it does for a lankier lifter. This shorter range of motion, combined with his raw power, would result in astronomical numbers. But the deadlift might be his signature event, the ultimate test of raw full body strength. Pulling a heavy weight from the floor. His leverage would be perfect. His legendary grip strength means he wouldn't need straps or a mixed grip. He could just grab the bar and stand up with it. His powerful back, glutes, and legs would work in perfect, brutal harmony. We are talking about numbers that would make today's world records look like warm-up sets. And what about strongman competitions? Events like the Atlas Stones, the Farmer's Walk, and the truck pull seem tailor-made for him. Lifting a giant, round stone and placing it on a platform requires the exact kind of full-body, awkward object strength a Neanderthal would have used to move rocks or haul parts of a mammoth. The farmer's walk, carrying immense weight in each hand for distance, would be a showcase for his grip and core stability. And the truck pull, strapping a harness to that wide, powerful torso and having him just dig in with his thick legs and drive. Specifically, the throws, shot put, discus, and hammer throw are all about rotational power generated from a stable base and channeled through the upper body. The Neanderthal's low center of gravity and immense core and shoulder strength would make him a natural. He could generate incredible rotational velocity. Picture him in the throwing circle, a compact bundle of muscle, coiling and then uncoiling with explosive force. The implements would fly. His short stature might be a slight disadvantage in terms of the release point, but the sheer power he could generate would more than compensate for it. There are other, less obvious sports where he could excel. Consider rowing. On the surface, rowers are often tall, but the sport is fundamentally about leg drive and pulling power. A Neanderthal in a sculling boat would be a power-generating machine. His massive back and arms would pull the oar through the water with unmatched force. The seated position negates any disadvantage of his short legs, in fact. The short shin-to-thigh ratio might even be advantageous in the compressed part of the stroke. His huge lung capacity would fuel him through a 2,000-meter race, which is a brutal, sustained anaerobic effort. Certain positions in team sports would also be his for the taking. In American football, he would be the greatest offensive or defensive lineman in history. Imagine trying to get past a Neanderthal on the line of scrimmage. He would be an unmovable wall of muscle and bone. His low stance, incredible leg drive, and powerful upper body would allow him to dominate his opponent on every single play. He wouldn't need fancy footwork. He would just plant himself, get his hands on the person opposite him, and control them completely. As a defensive lineman, his initial burst off the line would be explosive, and his ability to shed blockers through sheer force would be unparalleled. Similarly, in rugby, he would be the ultimate prop or hooker in the scrum. The scrum is a pure test of collective power and stability. A scrum anchored by a Neanderthal would not go backward. It would be like trying to push a mountain. In open play, he would be a terrifying ball carrier to try and tackle. It would be like running into a boulder. His low center of gravity would make him incredibly hard to bring down, and anyone who tried would pay a physical price. Now, it's just as important to understand where a Neanderthal would fail, and fail spectacularly. His body was a highly specialized tool, and that specialization comes with trade-offs. Any sport that requires long-distance endurance running would be a disaster. He was not built for it. His short, heavy legs would be incredibly inefficient for long strides. His entire body was designed to conserve heat, not dissipate it, which is a huge problem in endurance sports. He would overheat quickly. A marathon for a Neanderthal would be a painful, plodding ordeal. He's a sprinter, not a distance runner. Even a 400-meter dash might be pushing the limits of his physiology, which was geared more toward a 10-second burst of all-out effort, like spearing a giant elk, followed by a period of recovery. Sports that reward height and reach would be completely out of the question. A Neanderthal playing basketball would be comical. He'd get his shot blocked every time, and he'd be unable to contest rebounds against taller players. His short arms would give him no chance. Volleyball would be the same story. He would be a force in the weight room, but on the court, his physical gifts would be useless. The high jump? Absolutely not. His heavy, dense frame would be fighting gravity every inch of the way. He would also struggle in sports that require extreme agility and fine motor control. Gymnastics is out. His body is too blocky and heavy to perform the delicate acrobatic movements required. Figure skating, diving, and synchronized swimming all require a kind of lean, graceful athleticism that is the polar opposite of the Neanderthal's powerful form. Even in some sports where power is a factor, he might have issues. A baseball pitcher needs to generate incredible rotational force, which a Neanderthal has. But pitching also requires long levers, long arms, and fingers to maximize the velocity of the ball at the release point. And it demands a repeatable, fine-tuned motion that might be difficult for his robust body to achieve. He could probably throw a baseball through a brick wall from 10 feet away, but throwing a 95 mph fastball over the plate with movement, that might be a different story. Tennis would present similar problems. His short reach would be a liability, and the quick, agile movements around the court would tax his inefficient running mechanics. But there's more to sports than just the physical body. There's the mind. For a long time, the prevailing image of Neanderthals was of dim-witted brutes. Modern science has completely shattered that myth. Their brains were, on average, slightly larger than ours. The structure was different, with a larger visual cortex in the back and perhaps a smaller frontal lobe. What would this mean for sports? A larger visual cortex might translate to superior spatial awareness and reaction time. He might be able to process a chaotic scene like a rugby field or a wrestling scramble more quickly than we can. He might see openings and opportunities that others miss. The question of his temperament and ability to be coached is fascinating. Neanderthals lived in small, cooperative family groups. They hunted massive, dangerous animals, a task that would have required incredible teamwork, communication, and strategy. They cared for their sick and elderly, which shows a capacity for empathy and social cohesion. This is not the profile of a lone, uncontrollably aggressive monster, so a Neanderthal athlete could likely be a good teammate. He could understand a game plan and his role within it. His mindset, forged in a world of constant life or death struggle, would likely give him an unparalleled level of mental toughness. What's the pressure of a fourth down play compared to facing a wounded cave bear? What's the pain of a tough workout compared to a broken bone that has to heal while you continue to hunt to survive? His pain tolerance would likely be off the charts. He would be a coach's dream, in some ways focused, tough, and resilient. But he might be a nightmare in others. Would he have the patience for complex, nuanced strategies? Or would his instinct be to always rely on his overwhelming physical gifts? Perhaps the best approach would be to give him a simple, direct task. Your job is to not let that man get past you. Or your job is to lift this and put it over there. And then just let him do it, better than any human in history ever could. There's also the metabolic factor. Neanderthals had an incredibly high metabolism. They were burning calories at a prodigious rate just to stay warm and power their dense muscles. A modern NFL lineman might eat 8,000 calories a day. A Neanderthal athlete might need 10,000 or 12,000, primarily from protein and fat. His diet and recovery would need to be managed with scientific precision, but if you could fuel that furnace properly, the athletic output would be staggering. So, let's bring it all together. If we could bring a Neanderthal into our world, he wouldn't be a universal super athlete. He wouldn't be Michael Jordan or Usain Bolt. He would be a specialist, a master of a specific physical domain, the application of absolute power. He would walk onto the wrestling mat, into the powerlifting gym, or onto the football field, and he would fundamentally change the game. He would represent a different kind of human athlete, one shaped not by the pressures of a single sport, but by the relentless, unforgiving pressures of survival in the harshest of environments. His dominance wouldn't just be a curiosity. It would be a humbling reminder of our own evolutionary path. Homo sapiens succeeded for a variety of reasons, perhaps because our leaner, more efficient bodies were better suited for endurance and adapting to a changing world. We are the marathon runners of the human family, but the Neanderthals were the powerlifters. They were a testament to a different, more brutal kind of strength. Watching a Neanderthal compete wouldn't just be about seeing records fall. It would be like watching a piece of the Ice Age come to life, a physical echo of a world where power was not a means to win a game, but the only thing that stood between you and extinction. In his chosen sports, he wouldn't just win, he would be a force of nature, and we would be left to simply stand back and watch in awe.